Hello everyone, this is Shiny Noctowls, and this early morning I want to share this important message with you guys. I feel like it's important to share indeed, and I know I speak to my uncle as well as others about this topic quite a bit, but I figured I would share it with you guys on YouTube because I feel it's important to share about. And I want to share a little bit about the what some of the uh, native tribes, such as the Cree of Canada, the Mayans, and Hopi of the southwest of America, as well as part of Mexico and Guatemala, as well as the Inca descendants, which are some of my personal favorites of Peru and other areas in South America that speak about bringing people together with the rainbow prophecy. And so, what does this rainbow prophecy actually entail? Well, first off, let me get an image to kind of demonstrate what it means, at least through the artwork. So, if you see in this image that I've pulled up, and hopefully you guys can see it, give me a moment. Yeah, there's the image of all the different colored people on the earth, as well as an owl guardian, and I love owls. It's sort of one of my favorite animals. They're on this boat and they are sailing and working together. This is, I think a very important thing that we need to realize if we want to help each other is, well, we have to learn how to work together, because we're all in the same boat, as it were, in our own way. And I also love this image as well. Uh, it's just really what I like about Native American artwork and to an extent Japanese artwork, because it's actually, there's actually some shared ancestry between the Native Americans and the ancient Japanese. And I actually have some of that ancestry, or some of that ancient Japanese ancestry. I think it might be from the Quechua, but it could also be from some of the tribes in the Pacific Northwest, or maybe even could be related to the some of the Eskimos or Inuit. I'd have to learn a little bit more about that to, give a more conclusive kind of, kind of an not an argument, but kind of like a position, like where the ancient Japanese ancestry comes from. But anyways, I just figured I would share this because it's really interesting to kind of learn about how, and I think Wowita had this right. He's an elder of the Lakota people. That people are more than just Native American. They are also unique tribes, and different tribes have different ways of going about things because, well, of course, so do the tribes in Europe and Africa and Asia. So it makes sense, of what he's saying. I can see him laughing. But anyways, so the haplogroups that um, hopefully you guys can see this. A haplogroup is essentially, for those who don't know, the kind of genetic lineage you inherit from your mother or your father's line. So it'd be passed down from your mother's line and your father's line. So in my case, my father's fathers and my mother's mothers weren't Native American per se, but my father's mother was Native American, or had that ancestral lineage, and so I was able to kind of trace some of it. Not directly, because I technically, if I would want that to be the case, I would have to get a DNA test from my dad, or or his siblings to get a more conclusive, story of the exact ancestry from the mother's line, or from their mother's line. But at least in my case, since it is still part of my rainbow and since they are still, part of my family, I was able to find out other ways to at least find out which tribes I was kind of connected to, or at least, some of the haplogroups. Um, so I wanted to share this kind of map I have here. And so if you can see at the top, there's three language groups. I'm sure this is a very rudimentary way of kind of explaining this, as it were. But the three language groups are Eskalut, Amerid, and Nade, or let me pronounce that correctly. Na Dene. I think I got it. And these different groups, as you can see, have different haplogroups. You can see the northern Dene, or the, for example, Eskimos, or I think they prefer to be called Inuit. I mean, it is part of my rainbow as well, so. um, but there's also the tribes here in North America. Actually, my uncle Herman has spent over 50 years with the Cherokee. And although he's not predominantly Cherokee himself, the Cherokee have told him over time, the Eastern Band, uh, that they consider him like family. And I think the Cherokees say that some of their ancestors could have come from South America. And so I told my Uncle Herman, you may not, you may not be over 25% Cherokee, but you still have indigenous ancestry that might be related to the Cherokee. So, it might be a backdoor way of, kind of uh, describing it. But the reality is that there is a connection there, or shared ancestry of, I'd imagine, at least over 1,000 years. And so, I'm gonna see if I can continue sharing this. So you can see what I read about the haplogroups. I'll start with haplogroup A. Haplogroup A, well, it's the kind of the original indigenous ancestry, or one of the original indigenous ancestries of the Paleo-Siberians, because I think there were three tribes or three migrations of people from Asia or East Asia who actually migrated from that part of the world to Turtle Island and Abya Yala. Abya Yala is more so the term that they use in South America. I just like to reference both because I know more people know about Turtle Island, or the kind of the name of, that describes, parts of Canada, North America, ending, towards until it gets to the gateway of South America. And I think it's good to, shall we say, spread the rainbow. That even though, when most people think about natives, they think, oh yeah, the Cherokee, um, or Chippewan or Lakota. And I do love the Lakota, but I want to share that there are more than just everyone having a Cherokee grandmother, so to speak, if that makes any sense. Yeah, because I think, uh, I told my Uncle Herman, this is not an insult to the other native tribes, but I told him that in a lot of the U.S., and I'm not sure about Canada, but at least the U.S., a lot of the tribes, receive funds through casinos or other ways of going, receiving revenue. And I told him, or, and I asked him, and, Latin America, did you guys, get any special perks for being indigenous? And I know I think they have some programs for some of the indigenous people that they've granted for some of the people in Latin America. But you don't see a casino in the Amazon rainforest at the very least, or even in the highlands of the Incas or Quechua. And again, I'm not trying to downplay, the other tribes when it comes to these kind of things. I'm just, or I'm not sure if they have casinos with the Tlingits or not, because I am said I was related to the Tlingits, but yeah, I'd have to do more reading on that. But anyways, it's just one of those things where we have to remind others that uh, having this indigenous ancestry, as my Uncle Herman would say, it's not just about getting a free ride ticket to getting a check every month. Because according to my uncle, I think when receiving checks became more popular, because he had spent over 50 years with the Cherokee, I think more and more people were saying, yeah, I'm native, or I'm this percentage, or I'm over 25%. But the reality is that we have to understand that it's not really about a percentage of indigenous or any other ancestry, whether it's Irish. And, I can tell you plenty of stories because as Laura O'Brien and John O'Sullivan of the Irish Pagan School, I would say, and I don't always agree with them on everything, but one thing I do agree with them on is that just because you have, like, even if you have 100% Irish ancestry, it doesn't make you any better than someone who has like 20% you fuck. They might say something like that, or at least I would, because Irish is, part of who I am. Or I am many things actually, but yeah, well, that's the whole point of the rainbow, bringing people together. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's important instead of trying to strangle each other, who has more ancestry than the other. Oh, I have 2%, or I have 10%, or I have 50%. I'll just say, listen, fuck, you know, I don't care what percent you have. What matters is your heart. And but yeah, no, I think that it's important that we acknowledge this because I think it's a very good talking point. Because for example, with me, I have around 10 to 15% native ancestry. Uh, Now I don't have 25% to qualify me to live in some of the nations in the U.S. or to be considered, part of the tribe per se, and hopefully that will change in time as we come together. But I think that this is why it's so important to acknowledge that no matter what percentage of whatever ancestry you have, we are still connected to it in some way. And so that's why I think it's important to heal with it, especially if it's more, even 10 to 15% to me is a fair bit. And some people might say, well, that's nothing. And I would say, well, when you have at least 10 to 15 other ancestries you're connected to that are all like anywhere from 5 to 20%, that's quite a bit actually. Um, it's kind of like having a pizza. And instead of cutting it into just two halves, you cut it into 15 to 20 halves. And so that would be more of a better way of describing it. But anyways, so I want to share about the we talked a bit about the A haplogroup already. I'm going to bring a bit more information on this. To me, when I think about the A haplogroup, it makes me think about splitting the atom for whatever reason, or it makes me think about Atlantean beings maybe going in four separate directions, and maybe this is why some of the indigenous groups, such as the Hopi. Now, I'm not sure, you know, this could also be related to the B haplogroup. I'm not 100% sure on this because you notice how the A haplogroup is more towards the north. And as you get further south, it becomes less and less for the most part. So, this story about or the knowledge of the four separate races, it could have come from the B haplogroup, or maybe it could have come from both A or B. I'm not 100% sure on this. It could have been when the natives first came to this land, it could have been more than just the A haplogroup who came. It could have also been B as well. Or I think they called it. I'd have to look here. I think they call it the haplogroup A is the um. I'd have to check here. I think they use. Oops, no, that's not it. I think they call it the the Aina clan. So this would be with me when I look at the A haplogroup, I get more Lemurian energy. I know I watched this. I'm gonna try to pronounce her name as best as I can because I've heard her name before. I think her name is Haiwa Peisha. Hopefully I got that well enough. But Haiwa Peisha, she does videos of sharing Native American traditions and Native American healing, and she's done a lot of research on these kind of things. And so one of the things that she did was, well, she talked about the descendants of not just Atlantis, but also Lemuria. And when I look at the haplogroup A, it gives me just a strong Lemurian energy. Whereas when I look at haplogroup B, I think it's more so haplogroup B to me, I feel like it's more so descended from Atlanteans or maybe ancient Egyptians or a connection there. Because as you get further into South America, into Latin America, there's more of a connection of, people building pyramids and having these very vast civilizations. And I think even in parts of North America, like I think in the Mississippi area and other areas, they also had built pyramids or temples or mountains there. Um, there is this connection with what they call the Aina clan. Now I'm not sure exactly where they got these names or if they're placeholders, but I thought it was very interesting to share about that. So, because you notice how the B haplogroup is, more concentrated as you get further south, with the exception with some of the tribes in maybe parts of the US. Um, and again, I feel like the haplogroup B is really related to, uh, has a connection to the Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, or maybe to Atlantean beings. For those who don't know, Atlantis and Lemuria are very ancient civilizations, and I know some people, they don't believe in it per se, but there has been more and more research coming out that, as well as channeled messages, that these civilizations may have in fact existed even long before, some of the ancient civilizations like Sumer, Egypt, India, Greece, ancient China, and other civilizations. So I think it's good to share about this indeed. And so yeah, haplogroup A says it first originated in Africa, but I think, well, some people believe, we all came out of Africa, and there may be some merit to that. But I think haplogroup A also originated, or was in East Asia 30 to 50,000 years ago, which would, coincide with the migration of East Asia into the Americas later on. I'd have to read a bit more about this, but I think there was something about Asia that was kind of, or I think it was predominantly, I think the A2 haplogroup has its origins from, um, I'd have to check. Yeah, I think Yeah, haplogroup A is believed to have arisen in Asia some 30 to 50,000 years ago, or even further. Yeah, so that makes sense. And then it has haplogroup N, and this comes from concerning. Okay, so that could have been a connection to maybe Africa as well. Um, but yeah, no, because I know there are some Black Americans or African Americans that, jump up and down saying, we're Native American, we're Native American, we're Native American. And although, they it may be helpful for them to do a bit more research on certain things. There may be some merit to what they're saying that, if you go back, maybe 100,000 years ago, there may have been some tribes from Africa who did, uh, and when I think about sailed from Africa, I'm thinking predominantly the people in southeastern Africa near Madagascar, who may have sailed uh, east into Australasia and the Hawaiian Islands, and may have eventually sailed into the Americas. And I can kind of verify this to an extent because there was actually a Hawaiian elder, an elder lady who went to South Africa, and she could read the beads that this black South African had, regarding what each of these necklace beads meant. So I think there is some merit to their claim, though they would have to include not just Nigeria or Western Africa, and I don't want to put any blame on that, but just would want to say that if you want to include Africa, it's not just the western part of sub-Saharan Africa, so Nigeria and Ghana and these places, but it's also, southeastern Africa and even northeastern Africa, when it comes to Egypt, because Egypt is technically part of Africa. And so it's very interesting to share about this and to really learn about it. Because I think it is really interesting indeed. Okay, so we did haplogroup A. Haplogroup B uh, has its origins, greatest variety in China, and underwent its earliest diversification in mainland East or Southeast Asia. So this reminds me of this one video that this one man, these Chinese Americans made regarding Native Americans being related to Asians and specifically to East Asians and to even themselves. And so now they use the argument of that they came from Southeast Asia, and some of that might be true as we get further along. But at least with the haplogroup B, they speak about I'm going to try my best to pronounce it. Uh, Tien Yun Man are the remains of one of the earliest modern humans to inhabit East Asia. So this is actually near Beijing, so more so in the northern part of China. Okay, so there could have been a migration from, in my opinion, maybe out of Egypt into this area, and then they could have sailed into. To me, I feel like maybe Japan because I think about the Kolfin people and the way they built their pyramids are very similar. Were very similar to the Mayan pyramids actually. The Kolfin people were the some of the last people who major groups who migrated into Japan, aside from the ancient Jomon, which we'll discuss later, of haplogroup D, and then the Yayoi people. So if you look at this mound in Japan, uh, coffin also, is means coffin actually, and I don't think that's just a coincidence. Um, you look at the way they build their tombs or their temples or pyramids. And now let's go to the Mayan pyramids. There was one in particular that really looks very similar to the Coffin uh, Coffin mounds. I think there was one in particular that really caught my attention. I'm gonna see if I can bring it to the surface. So look at these Mayan ruins rather, not runes. We're not talking about Norse runes here. Ruins, yeah, ruins. All right. So here are the Mayan ruins here, and you can see it has a very similar or sort of similar structure. I'm gonna try to find a better example. There was one temple in particular that really caught my eye. That's really it made me think about the Colfin people. I'm gonna see if I can find it. There's actually even a video actually of a Japanese saying that Mayan was actually essentially modern Japanese, for anyone who's interested in learning about that. Um, let's see. We're gonna find it here. Here, this one. This exact pyramid looks very similar to the Colfin pyramids, or temples rather, or burial mounds, or however you want to say it. Let's see, this one, um, I'll try my best to look at it. Oh, so I think they call it um, Tuet Hukan. I think I've heard a Navajo word that sounds similar to this. Tulechlokan. I'd have to look at it again. But they say it's one of the most renowned and iconic ancient cities in Mesoamerica. They say it's the Aztecs' own city, but I think I remember someone saying that this pyramid wasn't built by the Aztecs, but was actually built by the Mayans. Um, I'd have to look into this to make sure. But no, this one really reminded me of the Colfin the Colfin pyramids. Because you look at, I'm gonna see if I can get a better. You look at sorry about that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to try to just toggle side by side. You look at the way that the stairs are built with with the Colfin mound, and you look at the way it's built with this so-called Aztec mound or pyramid, and you see it's pretty much almost the exact same. The only difference is that the Colfin, they built at least this particular pyramid or mound in more of a circular cone on the top, whereas this one has more of a flat, squarish kind of a geometry to it. Let me look at this to make sure, because I think I read, they said it was built by the Mayans, I think. But I'm going to read this to make sure. Um, Give me a sec. According to legend. Or it could be a combination of both. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm going to read this to get the exact info. Um, I know that, if guys know anything about history, the Mayans and the Aztecs didn't always get along because when the Aztecs came to Mexico, or the gateway into Latin America, as they say, The Aztecs did subjugate a lot of the tribes down there, and so that's why there has still been this need to have this reconciliation between uh, the Aztecs who came and the Mayans who um, who really have. Well, I guess they've both needed healing because the invader and the invaded needed both needed healing, and actually the Aztec Empire was actually, most people may not know this, but it was uh, defeated by a coalition of not only the Spaniards but a lot of the native tribes who also wanted to free themselves from the subjugation of the Aztecs. But I think I think they have been doing healing for themselves, and I think that it's important that we all heal because, as I tell my Hungarian friend, he's actually a Scottish Canadian Hungarian friend. When I tell him that, when he says the natives want their land back, I tell him the reality is it's not about the natives wanting their lands back. It's about all of us coming together. Because I actually found a photo of a Aztec warrior and a Hungarian person, a person from Hungary, and they look almost the exact same. And so this is probably why Janos Morisco, when he went to South America, and I've told this story before, but he got caught by a tribe or a Native American in South America, and he may have been of Aztec lineage or another lineage. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, he went to a sacred site that he wasn't supposed to, and when he was about to, uh, you know, pretty much end this guy's life, the man started praying in Hungarian. And then the native actually understood what he was saying, or enough to cut the rope. And when Janos said, why are you freeing me? He said, the native said, because you speak the language of our gods. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Aztecs and the Hungarians have some sort of shared ancestry. And I think I can verify this because now, before we go further with this, I think there was something about, you know, I'd have to make sure if um give me a moment. I have a feeling that they might have gotten some help, air quotes, from the when I say help, I mean subjugated help from the other tribes to help build these mounds or the pyramid. I'd have to do more research on it, but anyways, nonetheless, we do what we can to share the rainbow, and just like we do what we can to heal with the Hungarians, we do the same thing to, like, going back to Attila the Hun and the Mongols and things like this. We do the same thing with the Aztecs because I technically do have a bit of Hungarian ancestry, and some of it might have been pre-Mongol and some of it might have been afterwards. And I also have a wee bit of, I think it was a small bit of Aztec ancestry as well. But I think this is why we do what we can to, like I tell my Hungarian friend, to share the good energy of the dragon. Because the dragon, a lot of people, when they think of a dragon, they think of it as this negative being that just brings destruction or chaos or harm to others. And there are some that have used this energy, this dragon energy, in a negative way. But there are others who have learned to realize the healing elements of the dragons and the dragons, having more so of a guardianship role, or really a protector, a healer. And one of my favorite animes that really showcases this is when there was an anime called Fairy Tail, and there's a protagonist, Natsu Dragneel, and these other dragon heroes, as I call them, not just slayers but heroes. They were fighting this man named Agnologia, who wanted to, destroy all the dragons because he felt like the dragons had brought all this pain to his people, and especially when he was younger. Uh, and then he himself, he was consumed by hatred, and he wanted to be the Dragon King that he had hated so much. And so what Natsu had to teach him is, you can't just you can't have everything, or you can't just take everything, that it's important to cherish what you do have. And I think at the end of the story, when Agnologia realized the healing message Natsu had, it helped him heal, and it helped him understand, no, I don't want to just bring this pain towards everyone anymore. I want to bring the energy in a more positive way. Then I think that really helped as well. And so this is why I think, whether it's the Aztecs or the Hungarians or the other really descendants of Genghis Khan or Attila, um, to heal them, we help them understand the positive energy of the dragons, you know. And this is what, and it's further reinforced by some of the positive images of the dragons in East Asia, such as the dragon Shenlong of China. And I know China, sometimes people have a negative image of it, but there are, some positive images of the dragon, of bringing a bountiful harvest for the rice crops and other things in that land, as well as the Japanese and their dragon Shinryu. In my opinion, he guards the oceans or the sea. So I feel like I'd share that with you guys because I feel like it's very important. Um, they actually updated the American samples for the Native American tribes, and you can see I have a pretty high percentage with all these matches. Now, it's genetically more distant to me than my European ancestry because I'm predominantly more so European than indigenous American or East Asian or Central Asian, or I don't want to just because like I know there was this lady from China who said, not all the Native Americans are just East Asian. Some of them are also Southeast and other parts, and but it's all really connected in a way. But no, I think when I looked at the Aztecs, they're way at the bottom here for my matches. Um, it says here that they are related to a mixture of Hungarian conquerors. So that's why, I thought about my friend Sil, because he is Scottish, but he's also Hungarian. And then Yayoi. The Yayoi would have been the people who came into Japan after the Jomon. And this would have been around 2,500 years ago. So this would have been an image of the maybe more so of the Jomon people, of the indigenous Japanese, or this is at least one image of them. And then this is the image of the Yayoi, or the um, people who brought rice cultivation to Japan, and I believe they came from China. I'd have to read more into it to be sure. But this is just it's all really interconnected. I think people, they try to think that they're very isolated from each other, but we're really actually more so connected than we think. I think out of these three, I was most connected to the look of the modern Japanese, or maybe there was also some Coffin. It says the Coffin people came from, I think Korea or through Korea, and I'm thinking maybe Mongolia, Manchuria, closer to the northeastern part of Asia. Um, and so I was more so related facially to what they say is modern Japanese, which is a fair amount of Kofin, but still also a fair amount of Jolman. Because a lot of Japanese, I think, when you look at the haplogroups, I think they have at least anywhere from 10 to 40% D haplogroup, which is related to the Jomon. And then with the Ainu, the Japanese who live in, or well, they live in Japan still, so they live in Hokkaido. They are around more so 80 to 90% Jomon. But they are all Jomon. So this is why I say, they are still a family. They are still Japanese as a whole, technically, because even though they might try to separate each other, well, I'm not as Jomon, or I have these other, um, I might be more Yayoi or Kolfin or whatever you want to say it. They are still related to each other, and I hope in time that will heal them. Um, so yeah, no, so it seems like here the Aztecs, or the Mexica, as some would call them, um, are related to Hungarians, Yayoi, Mongol. See what I told you? I thought about the Mongolians. Uh, uh, I just thought about the Huns and the Saka tribe as well. When I think about Saka, I think about Osaka, and these were a nomadic people who inhabited the Eastern Eurasian steppe. So there you go. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting to share. I think the groups that I was most connected to, I think, if you want to go more so, I'm gonna try to see here. I think it's like a mixture. It says here Ghaznavid dynasty. Yeah, they also include the Incas. Okay, so my guess is that maybe this is why, like, the Aztec Empire, the Inca Empire were established, relatively late in the Native American sort of story, because, some of the stories of the natives go back 10, 20, maybe even 30 to 40,000 years ago. And I think the Aztec and the Inca Empire were relatively more recent, where this was more so established 1428. So this was relatively recent. It was just before the arrival of Europeans. The Inca Empire was established. It might have been established before, I think. I'd have to be sure. I would have to double check. Um, Founded when? Oh, no, it was actually founded a bit later, 1438. So yeah, my guess is that some of the descendants of the Incas and Aztecs may have come later on, in the timeline, yeah, timeline, I would say. And maybe this is why some of the Keru say, we were here even before Inca, because there may have been people even before the Inca Empire was really established, which is I think is very interesting. Um, so yeah, and then this would have been a mix of the Spaniards who came, and then a mixture of some of the native tribes. But I think when you go more so to when I start getting compared to matches that are more so uh, more so predominantly indigenous, I start getting uh, oh, there's the Jomon. That's what I was telling you about, the Jomon people. So this would have been 1700. You see how it connects with a lot of people from Central Asia. I know there were some people in the comments of some of the native videos I've watched that have said that they're, some of the native tribes look like they could be passed for Central Asian. And so this is probably why it is, because, well, there is that connection there. Through the migrational DNA map, as my Uncle Herman would say. These were a combination of, well, it seems like they were at least somewhat related to the Ottomans. And so, for, any of those who have heard about the Ottoman Empire, I'd imagine they were related to Turks, really, is what it's really saying. Um, the Turks, the Go Turks, they had their origins in Mongolia, actually. This even actually connects with what I spoke about, how some of the Scandinavians are actually related to, have ancestors not only from the Caucasus, as some would try to say, but also all the way back to Mongolia. Uh, but yeah, so this would be Ottoman Chula, and then Jomon would be indigenous Japanese. Um, Chula, Chola, sorry, not Chula. I don't know why I said Chola. Or, no, I got it right that time. Um, so, oh, let's see. Let me see here. Chola Dynasty. Southern India. Oh, okay. Okay, because I remember there are some Mayans who feel connected to India. I think there was actually this one. She calls herself a modern Mayan lady who, um, well, she is, um, but she listens to this guru called Sadhguru from India, and she said that they were kind of arguing, who invented the number zero, if it was the Mayans or the Indians. And I think Sadhguru told her that some of the ancestors of some of the Mayans could have come out of India, actually. So this is probably, the connection there with some of them. I'd have to imagine, which is very interesting to think about. And this would have been 1700s. Yeah, a lot of these matches at the start are more so recent. But if we go further down, here's the Iroquois. And so this is where it kind of gets interesting because it says I am also related to the Athabascan. The Athabascan, I believe, are actually related to the Dene, or actually they are. I'm gonna make sure I got this right. Um, yeah, also known as Dene. So it's connected to the Dene people. And I know that there is some beef, I think, between the Hopi and the Navajo, and they say, oh, these people from Alaska, we, there might have been, some rivalry, between these two groups, between the Hopi and the Navajo, and I know there still is to this day. I like the Hopi actually, and I like the Navajo too. I like both of them, because I guess they are both part of my rainbow in a way. But the Hopi, I remember there's this man named Peter Santinello. He's an Italian American, and he interviewed a person from the Hopi Nation, and then the Hopi man told him, we're on Hopi, and it was just kind of cool how he's like, yeah, don't mess with. It's like my friend Joe would say, don't mess with me. Or, well, my friend Joe, he said he was not only just Irish but also Apache. So, uh, now I think the Apache, I think they would be related to the branch of the Aztecs. Well, let me check. I want to make sure I get this right. Maybe they're not. I think the Comanche were, and the Comanche and Apache would go at it with each other. Belong to which family? I could think about. Oh no, the Apache are actually related to me, or to the or well, to the Dene. No, I'm just kind of laughing because I still remember Joe's mom. Maybe Joe's mom, maybe she had an ancestor that might have been, predominantly Apache. I remember when, I went to an IHOP diner with them. She's like, what's my name? And we had a friend named Joey who was always, yapping about whatever, I guess. And anonymous, and I was like, I think I got it right too. I said Debbie. No, her and my friend Joel, they've always treated me well for the most part, and they really have been good friends of mine here in North Idaho. But yeah, that was kind of funny to think about. Um, so yeah, it says here I'm most related to the or this group of people that I have a high match with. We're related to the Tlingit, the Athabasc, the Haida, so a lot of tribes from the Pacific Northwest, especially getting closer to the Canadian coastline of British Columbia and then bordering southern Alaska. And these were connected to, it doesn't tell you what haplogroup, unfortunately, but I suspect, they're, well, it says here that the Dene were predominantly an A haplogroup, but they also said they had found mutations with the Japanese, the Mongolians, and the Tibetans. So there is still probably that connection to Northeast Asia to an extent. Um, so it was also related to the uh here. So it says here I'm related to this match that they say they're related to the Eskimo, the Inuit West, the West Greenlander, the Inuit East, the Arctic Amerindian, and I think I had a small percentage of that. Um, the Chukchi. Chukchi, when I think about, there's this man an elder from the Onondaga tribe. This is from Syracuse, New York, and his name was Floyd Redcrow. And he said, when he had met the Irish said, Chucky, Chucky our law, we will have our day. Chucky sounds a lot like Chukchi, and I wonder if maybe the connection between us Irish, or the Irish that he connected with, and himself might be related to the Chukchi, or maybe some original Siberian ancestors that had, some of them had migrated west eventually into Ireland, probably tens of thousands of years ago. Um, there could be a potential connection with that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's interesting. Oh, we're not gonna look at Chucky here, but Chukchi, yeah. Um, it's just interesting to think about. Yeah, Siberian indigenous people. Yeah. Oh, they're related to the Ainu as well. Okay. So there you go. They're the closest Asian relatives of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, as well as the Ainu people and other East Asian people, being the descendants of settlers who did not cross the Bering Strait or settle the Japanese archipelago. Well, it says I'm somewhat related to these people, and I had a fair bit amount of ancient Jomon ancestry from, I think, Hokkaido. So maybe that's where some of it comes from. Yeah, it's a 95% match. This is relatively recent as well, 825. I'd imagine some of these groups came later than what some people may have previously thought. Um, this is Amerindian plus Mayan. So Amerindian, to me, I think, the maybe, to me when I think of that word, I think of the original Paleo-Siberian people. You know, it arrived here at least 15,000 years ago. Um, Let me look. Closest modern. Serrano, Colombian, Kukopa. I like Kukopa, I like the name. Kochimi, Kumai. I think if you know how to speak Japanese or know how to speak Spanish, it's easier to speak Japanese and it's easier to pronounce some of these words. It's funny how that all comes together. Maya, Luis, Luisano in Turkmen. So the Serrano people, I thought their story was kind of interesting. To me, the Serrano, not Serrano peppers, they remind me a lot of um, maybe to an extent Central Asians. So not just East Asian, but also maybe more so from the uh, central part potentially. And yeah, I watched a video about them and it was pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I'd have to do more reading on them because, I don't think just a 2 to 3 minute video does them justice. Um, but yeah, I did read a little bit about them. So I think it's important that we, remember the stories and really the how we're all kind of connected and try to do what we can to understand each other. So, and so when we go further down the line here, so there's the Eskimo and Inuit again. This time it's related also to the Athabascans. I'd have to look. Are the Eskimos and or Inuit, are they related? I'd probably imagine they mixed with each other. Long history of friendly interaction. Um, there are five distinct groups of indigenous people who are jointly called Alaska Natives, including the Iliots, the Inupikas, or probably butchered that, Northern Eskimos, the Yupiks, and they had to do a lot of healing with the Yupiks for whatever reason. Like I feel like there have been some people I've met here in North Idaho that they say they're from Alaska, but I feel like when I see, some of the hatred in their eyes that have had to heal, it could come from that lineage that they're still healing from. I don't want to try to box anyone in, but I was telling my Uncle Herman, there may have been some kind of rivalry in the past between some of the tribes in Alaska. And then there was the Athabascans, which I was connected to, and then the Northwest Coastal Indians, which are the Tlingit and the Haida. So I think I was related to the Northern Eskimos or the Inuits and the Greenlander, and then the Athabascans, and then the Tlingit and Haida. So there's already 3 out of 5. Um, but yeah, let me keep going down here. So again, got a lot of and see as I told you, when I look at when I was talking about the Huns and the Mongols, there it is right here with the Mongol horde. This would have been from Mongolia. And I actually was connected to, or I think one of the um, like first East Asian ancestries I was connected to was Mongolian and Manchurian, so maybe that's where some of it comes from potentially. Um, and that's why I try to tell people, there are positive ways to use to channel dragon energy in a positive way, or to see the dragons in a positive way, as well as the dragons within you by sharing the rainbow. And yeah, it takes a lot of strength to really bring it to the surface, but this is something that it's important to share. So yeah, so this there would be a connection here with the Eskimo, the East and West Greenlander, Inuit West, East, and the Chukchi as well, and the Haida. So the Greenlanders, I have to look here. I do see some connection there, actually. I like this image. I've seen this YouTuber before. She has positive energy to her in a way. So yeah. So they would have crossed into Greenland. This is where some of the Vikings also had met some of the Greenlanders or the indigenous people there. Um, long before Columbus. Yeah, yeah. My uncle Herm actually spoke a bit about that. Um, so this would be okay. So this is oh no, we're not into the ancient ancestry yet. This is all still relatively recent, so to say. This would be Athabascan or Athapascan. This is so I learned in the Athapascan language they pronounce the B as a P because phonetically this is how they do it. And so this would be connected to the haplogroup A. And so these would be, I would imagine, because I'd have to see how long were the Tlingits in America? Because some of them came later, had settled for thousands of years. Yeah, that's what I figured. Um, and Tlingits and Jomon related. Because like when I have read stories about some people visiting the Ainu, they felt a strong connection with the Tlingits. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I know they had like a sharing ceremony, like a sharing kind of coming together of the Haida tribe and the Tlingit. I'd have to find out, are the Tlingit and Haida related? Are they related? The Haida Nation and the Tlingit Nation have existed as two separate and distinct people. The Great Lan Iani, known as Southeast Alaska, is the ancestral home of the Tlingit and Haida. Okay, so there is some difference between both. But I had heard something about when they had visited the Ainu in Hokkaido that they had felt like they had gone to a Pacific Northwest kind of village. I'm sure over time, some of them did mix because, well, I have a connection to both of them, so I'd have to imagine some of them did mix over time. Um, so this would be the Ainu. I do see some connection between both of them, yes. Yeah, I'm sure there was a connection between both. Yeah, this is what I'm kind of thinking. Yeah. Or at least a connection of some kind, I'd have to imagine. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely look very similar to the Ainu. I would say the Tlingit also have their own connection as well. Yes, I can see that in both. Um, and the Haida are, after all, also at the Paskin as well, so there would have to have been some connection between the both of them. And as you can see here, not too far away from the Tlingit are well, there's the Navajo and the Apache, but also the Haida as well. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a connection there. I'd have to imagine. And there's also some Sheen, bringing out a lot of tribal names here. Just shows how diverse the rainbow is. These would have been people inside the Skeena River, northern coast of British Columbia. All right. It's all really connected. Okay. Let's go into some of the haplogroups. I think may not. Yeah, so yeah, I really am related to a lot of the Athapaskans for sure. And mhm. But also but these would also be part of the Ainu, or well, not Ainu. Well, maybe that's a Freudian slip. Inuit. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because I think Ainu um, means like I think there was like Inuit means the people, and then there's some similar message with the Ainu, the people for the Inuit, yes, and then the Ainu means human. Yeah, so I'm almost positive there is a connection there. I'd have to imagine. Yeah, I unless if someone else has more information they'd like to share on that. So, and then here we have the Navajo, our good friends, Dene. I know some Navajo would say, we're not Navajo, we're Dene. Get it right. I'm like, oh, all right, all right. Okay, so here would be the D4 ancestry. And when I think about the D ancestry, I think about Jomon. But where does this branch from? Um, Nepalese, but I think Japanese, like the Jomon, Okinawans, Koreans, Northeast Asia. Bering Strait. And here we have a connection between the Athapascan, the Saka, the Hun. See, I told you, this is probably why the indigenous people, they say we're not just Native American. We are different, we are our distinct tribes because, well, it's just like in Europe. It's like, I'm not just European. I mean, you know, we are, there is a connection to, yes, Europe, but it's not just European. It's Irish, it's Spanish, it's Portuguese, it's French, it's German, it's Norwegian, it's Swedish, it's Danish. I'm sure it's the same thing for them as well. Yeah. And oh, did I? Okay, no, I wasn't sure if I lost my place or something here. But yeah, so there's the D4 ancestry. Okay, so this is more so ancient native ancestry, relatively ancient, 6,300 before Common Era. And then here we have the Apache, the Navajo, the Maya, because the Athapascan, had come in. I think this would have been. They were the middle migration, I think, in terms of the three major ones. Oh, and they had migrated when? I think this was probably, well, 1,000 years ago into the southwest, but into Alaska, because it said, I think it was, they had been up there for at least 10,000 years, maybe. Maybe less than that, but I'll have to check to make sure. Um, let's see. It's a long history, isn't it? It's 8,000. Oh wait. Uh, I'd say probably 8,000 years ago at least. Yeah, or well, maybe even more. Like maybe even 9, somewhere around there. Yeah, that's a long timeline. Yeah, I'd have to imagine be around that. Okay, so sound like my I sound like my I had a computer science teacher back when I was going to college for computer science, and of course I'm doing something completely different now, even though I still technically work on computers. And he would always say soul, and I just tend to do that naturally as well. His name was Roger Egan, and Egan is Norwegian from Trondelag, or Trondelag. And I've always gotten well with some of the Norwegians. Sometimes I struggle with some German Americans, and I use sometimes air quotes German Americans because sometimes they think Germany is just one whole group of, they're just all the same Germans, there's no difference. It's just like with the Native Americans. And we got to remind them, no, it's not just, there's a difference between the uh, Proto-Germanic, the Celtic influenced people who live there, the Scandinavian, and then the people from Eastern Europe, and as well as the Ashkenazi Jews and a whole bunch of other people who came. But yeah, so I remember there were some people that were sometimes they get confused. It's like he gets so along well. He gets along well with those Norwegians for whatever reason, or those Norwegian Americans. I wonder why. And but no, I think we should strive to get along with everyone if we can. It takes a lot of courage and strength. It's not easy, but I think this is the goal of the Rainbow Prophecy as the really the. Of course, I know the Mayan, the Korean, the Hopi speak about it, but I really do connect with the Quechua who speak about the Rainbow Prophecy because I think they just have a lot of love. They have a lot of just love. There was actually a Hopi elder who went to meet the Quechua in Keru in South America, and the Hopi elder was almost in tears, like he was crying, and they hugged him and they healed him, and this is what it's really all about. And so I really do feel that if we're gonna want to heal these lands, it's not just gonna be from people from Alaska, Canada, or even the U.S., or even Mexico, but even further as far south as South America. You know, it's the whole package. As they say. Yeah. Um, but yeah. And so here with this sample, this is a little bit earlier on, or relatively speaking. There's a connection with the Athapascan and the Mayans, connecting. Yes. Alrighty then. And this was in the Pacific Northwest, so it makes you think the Mayans may have not have just had, you know, roots in Mexico, but even as, as far north as maybe places like Washington or parts of California. Yeah, or Oregon or um, Apache, Navajo. Yeah, I know my friend Joe's like, I'm Apache, I'm Apache. I'll say, well, listen, bud, you're not the only sheriff in town. uh, it's funny. Okay. Okay, East Haida. Oh, this is, I'll have to see where this one is. Okay. Um, yeah, there's something about this image that reminds me a lot of my friend Joe. I just think it's the way, he just kind of has the man has a kind of like not like a smirk, but just kind of reminds me of my friend Joel. Just kind of his facial expressions at times. Um, have a lot of Athabascan connections. A lot of them. Either that or there's just a lot more samples here. Let's see. Uh, yeah, yeah. I don't have any uh, per se, it's saying Lakota or Cherokee per se, or especially the Cherokee. Everyone wants to, Cherokee grandmother, but I do have other tribes that are represented here, which I think is important to note. And so comes from the C haplogroup. C1. Where does this come from? Origin. Caspian Sea, Lake Baikal. Okay. So Lake Baikal, uh, Siberia. Pretty cool. Caspian Sea. Caspian Sea. Oh. So this might have also roots not only from Mongolia, as I had thought, but even maybe parts of Central Asia. Interesting. So there's more info there. I think I predominantly have DNA. It's kind of funny. I'd have to read more into it, but yeah. There's B actually. This is when I think about like ancient Egyptians, or maybe Atlantean ancestry maybe. And here, what do you know? Here we go. We have Amerindian here, Mayans, but also Incas as well. So the Incas would be right here in Peru. And yeah, it's just amazing how, it's interesting how, some people say, the natives, some of them thought they were savages or didn't really have any complex ways of thinking, or civilizations. But if you think about some of the groups, especially the ones who came a little bit later, like the Incas and other groups, they had a lot of these advanced um, temple building that would kind of be mainly compared to Egypt or ancient Egypt, and so there could be a connection there. Chaco Canyon, this is B2. This comes from um, hmm, says Asia. Yeah. I'd have to imagine maybe there's some connection with the coal fin, or because they had done some temple building in Japan and maybe even in ancient China, but there could be that connection there as well. Chaco Canyon. So it seems like I'm might be predominantly Dana or ancient Jolman or Inuit, but there is a connection with the Quechua and the Karu, and I'm really happy about that because I really do connect with them. And in this lifetime, my dad's ancestors were born in Colombia, which is not too far away from Peru. So I've always had this, like, I've always just liked their energy, I guess. So this Chaco Canyon, they would have been related to Mayans, Athapascan, um, B2, Inca, Aztec. Okay, so these samples are more recent, I think. Yeah, yeah. When it comes to the Incas and things like that. Because again, the Karus say, they were there even before Inca. So I think there's a reason why they say this. Okay, so this match. So there were people with Inca ancestry that were coming down, it seems like. They weren't just in South America all the time like some people think. They were originally came from further north. Yeah. Inca Athapascan, yeah. Then we already covered the Aztecs. That we do the best that we can to heal with them because I think deep down they do have good hearts. Like the Hungarians, I've done what I could to heal with. Um, and I have, again, I said I had some Hungarian myself, but it could be like a blend because there were tribes in what is now called Hungary even before the Huns came. But we try to do what we can to heal their hearts because I think that's what's important. So they actually came from Shangnu, Ulanzuk, Mongolia. There's a connection there. So they were really connected to the Mongols or the Huns. I'd have to imagine, unless if I, because I even think they said that the Chinese and the Aztecs there is some similarities between them. Proto-Mongol Mongols. Mhm. Yeah, we do what we can to heal and bring that healing rainbow dragon energy as well as other energies to really balance things in that aspect. Okay, so further here, 200 AD. So this is interesting. I was connected to the Rorin Cognate. I also think about Rurouni Kenshin. It's kind of an anime I like watching. So these were the first people who used the title of Khan or Kagin and are believed to be descended from the Xianbi. See how it's all really Proto-Mongolian. Um, Xianbi. Yeah. we do what we can to show them the healing dragon energy, or to try to help them use it or channel it in a more positive way. And it takes strength because it's not always easy, and there are those who will try to um, show the negative image of the dragons, but this is why we do what we can to share the guardian or the healer, that is the protective guardian dragon that brings people together. And I think they even had an image in Peru of the rainbow dragon, which I kind of like, coming together, because really that's what it should be. Um, so we help them with that, help them understand the healing and the coming together. So this is part of the journey. All right. It's a little bit more distant here for me, but here you have D2, Q1, Q1. Where does that come from? Q1, Q1A1 haplogroup origins. Found almost only in Han Chinese. Okay, so maybe there was a connection there. I'd have to imagine. Um, Greenland. Okay. Oh, here. So this tribe, the Cats, I think I had like a small percentage that popped up for me. I think it was like 1% or something. But when I think about cats, I also think about Celts. Cats, Celts, cats, Celts. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a shared connection there between the cats and the Celts. Just like with Chukchi and Chucky are law. I'd have to imagine maybe there is some ancient connection from thousands of years. But yeah. And what do you know else? The Chukchi are not too far away there. This would have been more recent. Okay. Inca, Mayan, Inca, very closely connected. And so that's around the last of it really. Now the rest of these it says I'm less than 1%. Um, Ancient Peru. Maybe these were some of the groups that were there even before, or the Karu said, we were here even before Inca, so there's probably a reason why they say this. Here are some of the tribes from the Amazons there. The Kari Tiana, Tiana, yeah. They remind me, the Kari Tiana, or some of the indigenous Amazonians, um, some of them do remind me of some of the Ainu in some ways, because maybe it goes back to the D haplogroup. I think there were some that like that just reminded me of the Ainu a bit. Yeah, there was just like an energy with some. I'd have to look at it again, and maybe over time there might have been some mixing with the tribes, but I think there is a connection there. Yeah. Uh, that's kind of what I envision. Yeah. So the rest of this, it's kind of goes further down. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought this was kind of interesting, an interesting way to share the rainbow. Well, because I did a lot of it just even with just the native tribes, and I know in my previous video I did a lot of um, with the what do you call it? With more so my European matches. I think maybe we're gonna call this I'm gonna change the video. Uh, yeah, I think Rainbow Unity. I like that. Or coming together. Yeah, I like that. Or what's another word for coming together? Um, coming together. Uh, coalescence, flowing. I'll call it healing rainbow. I like that. Yeah, I think because we spent most of the video kind of looking more so at ancestry of you know, because I like again I have a lot of my friends who are very adamant saying, I'm Cherokee, I'm Apache, I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever under the roof. And so I kind of wanted to learn a bit more about some of my connections. 'Cause I know that I was, that, the indigenous ancestry was part of my rainbow, but I feel like we have a lot of um, Dene for sure. We have some Inuit, Athapascan, which, yeah, I guess there's a relation there. Um, let me look at the five different tribes again. Sorry, yeah, it's interesting how a lot of them are really connected to Alaska, but yeah, so I probably would say more so Northern Eskimo or Inupiat, Athapascan, and Tlingit and Haida. So yeah, so probably north, east, and southeast. Yeah, I think I got it right. Yeah. And then we also had some connection with the Mayans and the Incas, the Quechua, and even healing with the Aztecs as we heal with the dragon energy, or kind of try to help them see a more positive way to channel it, like I do with my Hungarian friend that also uh, needs the same healing. Because I know there was a reason why, again, Janos Marisco, he wanted to share his story of, again, of, hey, we're probably related to these natives. And unfortunately, at the time in the 60s and 70s, he wasn't, his story didn't really flow completely out there. But, hopefully, now that, we live in a different age, that he will be remembered, not just in this black and white image, but in the form of the rainbow, as we all come together, as it should be, as it should be. So, anyways, guys, I think that's going to be it for now. I think that I've done what I could to really share this really, I think, healing video, and I hope for anyone who feels connected to the Native Americans or has any ancestry connected to them, or again, is just interested in the culture, or just in even just different messages, I guess is maybe a better term, different messages, different healing messages that come forth. Um, it might, yeah, I think it, if it helps, if it speaks to you, then I hope that it will be a healing thing indeed. Anyways, guys, I'll be heading off for now. but I hope you all take care. Slangafol. Bye for now, guys. Bye for now.